कुछ feel नहीं होता रत्ना? Fuck, tell me how you feel.
जो भी कहे, आखिर में मैं आपकी सर्वेंट ही हूँ ना।
तुम कब तक मुझे सर कहोगी?
तो क्या कहूँ?
Hi Rohena, welcome to Soch platform. Very warm welcome. It's absolutely a delight to have you on our platform.
Thank you so much for having me and for talking about the film. It's really exciting to have it reach out.
Yeah, it's a beautiful movie. For those who have not seen, please see Sir. It's being screened on Netflix and it's absolutely worth it. It's one of the most honest, authentic and a soulful movie that I've seen in a long time. And the movie really stayed with me, which normally doesn't happen. Yeah, for the movie to sort of dwell in someone has to be something very deep, I think. And if any movie is hatke, that's Rohena's movie. And truly not a cliche this time.
Thank you. It's nice to hear that it stayed with you. That really means something, Yeah.
I'm sure I'm not the only one, Rohena. Many people. It's probably echoed by many people,
Yeah.
So I want to know, Rohena, tell us more about yourself. Like, give me who's Rohena? Did you always wanted to make a film? How did you venture into filmmaking?
So I'm actually, I identified more as a writer, actually, so I've, I studied in the US and I did fiction and poetry. So I did, English undergrad, and then I did an MFA in fiction and poetry writing.
Wow,
and then
very creative.
Then I started working in film. So I started off like working in Paramount Pictures in New York, and then I worked on a set, and I was basically bringing coffee to people, really at the bottom of the ladder. But I slowly realized that film is actually where my interests converge, because I have a strong sense of some sort of responsibility towards society or wanting change. But I also love storytelling, and I think film is a lot of fun because you can do it, you can do things, you can be a sort of sometimes I like to call myself a sneaky activist, like you can kind of slip in whatever small way, every choice you make is a choice, when you're a writer or you're a filmmaker. And I think there are ways to get small messages across. So I think that's what really drew me to film as a way to communicate through, a more sort of a more mass medium.
It is a great medium. So you're currently based in France, right?
Yeah.
Is there a particular, it's like just organic, or because Europe is also a hub of such creativity, and especially France?
So I first moved to France for a brief period of time in the early 2000s, just because I loved it, which didn't make any sense, and sometimes I think some of the smartest decisions make absolutely no sense at the time. But it didn't make any sense, but I really liked it. I was happy here. So I was living here trying to figure out how I could make things work. I mean, at the time, for a little while, I was actually writing Jesse Koine long distance.
Oh, wow.
I was working as a TV writer, so I managed to work for a little while long distance. It was tough, but I really liked France. And then I ended up falling in love with a Frenchman. So I'm married to a Frenchman. But we actually moved here again. We moved to India together, and then we actually moved here because of the film, because the film is an Indo-French co-production.
Okay.
And the post-production of the film was entirely in France, and I needed to be here for 3 to 6 months. And since my daughter's half French, we were like, okay, maybe we can try to spend some time in France. So it's sort of it's a family decision. It's also a work thing. And Paris is a great city to write, to create, to,
yes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So France is your home as of now.
For now, yeah. I mean, I really like it. And I feel quite lucky to have the option, of having access to both places. Yeah. Both places feel like home, India and France. The film, in fact, I mean, I wrote the film and shot the film. I'd been living in India for a long period of time, and then like I think 10 years before I wrote the film, I'd been in India. I was back from the US. I was back from my stint in France, and I'd been in India. So it feels completely Indian, But at the same time, I travel a lot, so there's a feeling of I feel like you have a slightly different perspective because you're there, but you're also away, which you probably are familiar with.
Oh yeah,
You
absolutely.
things.
And
Um,
you grow as a person when you travel or live in another
yeah,
place outside your own country. So coming back, I know you grew up in India, so it's sort of maybe a no-brainer, but even then, I've grown up in India and millions others, but I haven't seen a movie that's sort of kind of given a beautiful layer to a master servant kind of a relationship, or master caretaker, which
mm,
I thought your movie did, because Hindi films does depict master and
yeah,
caretaker relationship, but not in this light. It's almost not almost, but I think always, at least as far as I can recall, where the person is subservient and has no power. So it's a very power driven plot
yeah.
most of the time, but you have put it in a very beautiful way where I felt like it was amazing how you treated Ratna, the character. So I
Yeah.
wanted to know from you, is like, was there a lot of thought process that went in? Because I don't know how you sort of decided this is how I want to
Yeah.
portray Ratna.
It's an interesting question actually because the power dynamic that you're saying that is typically represented, that is of course somewhere at the root of the story, because
Mm-hmm.
I've lived with that and faced that. From a very young age, you see how we live in India and you question it, but then you're part of the system. So I struggled with that, but I just for me, like I said, I didn't really want to. I didn't know what to do with that feeling, right? How do you make an interesting story out of it? I didn't want to tell some kind of preachy story. I didn't want to tell anybody what they should be doing because I genuinely don't have the answers. Like I made this film because I don't know. I don't know what to do differently, how to do things differently, how to be more just in such an unjust context. So for me, it was really that trying to figure out how to talk about this in a way that's not preachy, that's not violent, but of course there's an inherent violence in the system, but that is really somehow beautiful, you know. And so when I thought of doing it as a love story, and I thought of really reversing in many ways the power dynamic, because of course he's the one with money, but she's the one with dreams. She's kind of happier than him deeply because she's got a dream and he doesn't. So I think that really changes things. And she's not a bechari.
Yeah.
She's a dynamic, interesting woman, and you see if he falls in love with her, he falls in love with the person.
Yes.
And that was also something that I wanted to explore. Like, I was not interested in this idea of love that is just, you look at some, especially in cinema, right? Like, you see two people cross each other, there's a breeze, there's some background music, and they're in love. Like, I wanted to go deeper than that and really understand, like, what is this idea of love that I want to talk about, and how would he fall in love with her, and who is she that he falls in love with her? So we need to
Yeah.
fall in love with her, for
Oh
us
yeah.
to buy that he would fall in love with her, because Indians are we're so classist fundamentally, right? We're not going to be like how. So I think it was a reversing the expectations on that, making her more dynamic and more interesting, I think helped to break out of those cliches, the oppressor victim cliche.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that answers your question. It's kind of a
No, no,
long,
no.
like a
I
writerly
think,
response, how you get to it.
but the thought process of you trying to not victimize and
Yeah,
ensuring that you enhance a personality itself is a very different way of thinking. So I think that itself, it talks a lot about you, to me at least, as a person. So you definitely have a philanthropic in you along with a filmmaker, which is great. I think it's beautiful, truly beautiful. um, so that I mean, I wanted to know from you, how was your film received, especially in India? So I wanted to know what has the audience reaction been in India, because the
so
film got released in India recently, right?
yeah,
Is
yeah. And
okay.
I was really nervous actually, because like you're saying, I really didn't know how people could respond. Would they reject it? Would they reject the way, even the style, the
Yeah,
choices?
yeah,
But I have just been blown away by the Indian audiences. Like, literally, like the film released on Netflix on a Saturday without any fanfare. Like, Netflix hadn't even tweeted about it. They hadn't even posted the trailer. But I had tweeted and said, okay, the film is finally coming to Netflix. It released on a Saturday. By Sunday we were number 2 in India. By Monday we were number 1 in India. And we were number one in India for 5 days straight, and we're still in the top 10 in India. But that is completely audience driven, because there was no marketing budget, there was nothing, it was all done. We had released in the cinema, we had nothing left, we had no money left. It's a completely independent film, so we said, okay, let's see what happens when it gets onto Netflix. We'll try, but it's really difficult to get visibility because Netflix has got so much of content that you can very easily get lost.
Yes.
So my biggest fear was getting lost, not on Netflix, but the audience did that. They drove the film to number one, and I was just sitting there in shock. Like, I had tears in my eyes when I loaded Netflix and I saw it was number one, ahead of Bridgerton and Lupin, and and I was just in shock, because that means that the Indian audiences chose to watch a small independent film instead of binging on some any series, and that says a lot. Like, I hope that inspires other producers and other directors to think like, hey, you know what, you can make what you want because the audiences are ready for it. We always judge the Indian audience, and we always say, oh, they want this or they want that or they want garbage. It's not true. I mean, in my experience, has been amazing. So yeah, it's just been wonderful. And I get such lovely notes, on social media and things, like, where people are really deeply moved and affected, and they care about the issue.
Yeah. I honestly think you have started a conversation which we have either forgotten or sort of just taken for granted. I lived abroad for almost 20 years. I realized that it's nothing different than what we have in America, which was slavery.
There's segregation, right? What is that, right?
Yeah, but no more exists, at least on the papers, and more or less it doesn't. But yes, in India, we still sort of have not addressed it full on.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. So you making a film on that genre is spectacular.
Thank you.
I'm just blown. So Rohena, bear with me. I am your big fan right now.
That's really sweet.
So your film was screened at Cannes, right? 2 years ago when it was released, and thereafter I know that you guys have even been nominated for the Critique Award. Am I right?
Yeah, the Critics' Choice Award in India. Yeah.
Okay. Now that must be a big deal. I don't know. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because is that recent, like now?
That had just happened. So the film it's had a really long journey, and I mean, I feel really lucky also for that. It's been long, but it's been really lucky. So you get to start at Cannes. First of all, that's a huge advantage. You get a platform, and then you get your film released theatrically. It's released theatrically in 24, 25 countries.
Wow.
In cinemas over 2018, 2019. So I was traveling, country to country. Like, the film released in many countries in Europe. We released in South America, in Japan, in Taiwan, in many different centers. And then I was working. Finally, I got around to working on the Indian release. It was supposed to release in March in India, and then COVID happened. So then we pushed the Indian theatrical to November. We released on Diwali, which was really funny because there was nobody else who wanted to release in the middle of a pandemic. So we're like, okay, we'll do it. And then we released on Netflix. And during this whole journey with the theatrical, with the commercial theatrical releases, but also we were also parallelly doing festivals. The film has been in some 40 something festivals around the world.
Wow. Okay.
And we have like 18 awards in different categories, a lot of which is most important to me, are audience choice awards. Where the audience votes, and like 8 of our awards are the audience choice. Wow. So now it's really exciting to have a Critics' Choice Award nomination, but the audience is what really matters to me personally. Yes, and I think those awards really mean a lot, because people are just voting with their with their emotions. So awards wise, it's also been really gratifying. But honestly, I think what matters, what you make a film for is for me, it's the audience. And getting this kind of reaction and being carried by the audience this way has just been the biggest award, really.
Absolutely. I can't imagine anything better than being appreciated by an audience, who are basically your consumers. That makes sense. But I'm curious to know, what took you so long to release in India? Were there any hurdles, like any particular reason? Because I know you guys, screened elsewhere in the world.
Yeah, so in India, it was complicated to release. What happened is, we had a world sales agent who was selling the film to individual distributors around the world, and each distributor, like for these kinds of films, releases their film in their territory. India, I did not actually want sold that way by the world sales agent, because they don't know India. So they don't in India, it's its own beast. So you need to know how to tackle it, you know.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to go that route. So I kept it with me. The rights were kept with our production company, Reese and me, and we said, okay, we'll figure out how to do this. And I showed it to a few distributors. I showed it to a few mainstream distributors, to a few small distributors, and they all said, oh, lovely film, but there's no star, you know. So how will we release it?
Yeah.
And I said, you know, but if you like the film, you know, we can do a small campaign or whatever. But that it was complicated. So then I realized that this is going to have to be done entirely independently.
Okay.
So we had to do an independent release without any some funding or support from outside. And I had, you know, I needed the time because I was traveling constantly. You know, from end of 2018, I started doing the travel there was festival travel and theatrical release travel to different countries. So by the end of 2019, I finally stopped that and I started to prepare the independent release in India, you know, to take the time to focus on that and to make it happen. Because by that time I realized this is not going to happen the normal way, you know, and I didn't want to do the shortcut of selling straight to Netflix. You know, I really wanted to give the film a chance in the cinemas.
Yeah.
So then it had to be an independent release. And so we were trending. We were like trending on IMDb at #1 in like March 15th, 2020. We were supposed to release March 20th. And we had to call off the release like on March 14th.
Oh, wow.
You know, because we went into lockdown, you know. I took the next flight back. My daughter and husband were here in France. I was in India promoting and I had to rush back. So that's kind of what took so long, you know. Like just first of all, you know, you're up against the star system. Then we were up against a pandemic. So it just took time. And also, you know, also the success of the film cost me, right? Because I was traveling so much.
That's true. I mean, that's a lot you put in, you know, lot of energy
and
there.
I never thought that, you know, you don't think when you make a film that if it goes well, it's going to take so much out of you to release. Like the journey of release, getting the film to the audience is so long. From like, you know, from the Cannes premiere till now, it's a really long journey, and it's a lot. You need a lot of stamina, actually, you know, and a lot of commitment to see it through. But you know, it's so worth it. It's so worth it because at the end of the day, when you get such an emotional response, that's what you'd work for. You know, that's all you want.
Absolutely. And it is hard. I mean, it's hard for any pioneer, you know, like, and this is your debut film. So certainly, I mean, you know, you are kind of a newbie too.
Totally. I mean, it's been tremendous learning. You know, I've been around for a really long time. I used to work as a commission writer and this and that, but actually releasing your film, figuring out how all of that works. The great thing is you also come across really passionate people along the way who support you, you know, who try to who help you, whether it's marketing, things like that, and people really put in everything because they believe in something, and that's really inspiring. You know, that gets you through. Like even for the India release, like I wouldn't have been able to do it if I didn't have the support of, you know, the Shiladitya who runs a marketing and distribution company to say, no, listen, come on, we can do it, you know.
Right.
So if you find little partners along the way who help you, you get through it.
No, I hear you. We all help each other, and that's needed. So Rohena, can you talk a little bit, you know, what were your learning experience and the best experience perhaps in making of this particular movie, and the worst experience? So what is your takeaway? Just you know, a few lines if you can let me know.
I would say, so my best experience, I think the thing that I didn't know was that I've been working as a writer for so many years, and you know, you're always a bit nervous to make the leap to being a director because, you know, it's not you know, you need to win people's trust and things like that. So I think the amazing thing was that when you find good people again to work with, like my DOP Dominique Collin, when you have a good crew, it's just such a joy to collaborate, you know. And what you can do when you have the support of your crew and they believe in what you want to do and they can take it to the next level. And I think that that learning and that discovery of just the joy of collaboration and at every stage, you know, from creating the set to, you know, it actually shooting, to the post-production, the edit, the music, you know, working on the music with the music, finding the right sound, every step, it's a slightly different thing. It's a very different activity at each stage, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just thrilling. So I think that learning was like, that was the best experience for me, was just collaborating with wonderful people, you know?
That's nice. Yeah, because writing, as you said, you're a writer. That's a very
Yeah,
solitary
exactly.
activity as compared to, yeah,
Yeah,
with
now
collaboration.
I'm back to writing because I have to go back to the drawing board for my next film. I'm like, oh my God, I've been in the hardest part all these years. Like, it's so hard alone, you know, banging your head against the wall and like saying, I don't know, I don't know how to write. Um,
No, I'm
but the
sure. And
collaboration is lovely, you know.
yeah, and probably, your writing will culminate into another movie. I'm rooting for you. Many are. We'll wait for that.
I hope so. Right now I'm, how you have the whole writer's panic and all of that. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of that happening. Yeah, and the difficult experiences, I think, is just, winning trust. Like you have
Yeah,
to get people on board in the beginning. You know, those things are, yeah,
yeah,
you have some challenges around that. But honestly, it's been a pretty good experience. A lot of
yeah,
learning, but nothing I regret.
yeah. Regret. Yeah. So, Rohena, can you talk about? I mean, I thought your cast was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So, how did you choose these two characters who are really powerful actors, both of them? Did
So
you have you seen their work before,
yeah,
and that's how you?
yeah.
Okay, you
No,
can.
well, I think both. Tilottama's work I was very familiar with,
Yeah.
because of Kissa, because of Monsoon Wedding, and actually, my husband, who's also the producer of the film, he was the first person to mention her, and I said, "Yeah, of course," you know. And then she just got stuck in my head, and I will. And funnily, we had crossed paths
Mm-hmm.
in Pune at a farmer's market, you know.
Okay.
So we had spoken briefly there, and I was like, oh, I should really talk to her. And then, I'm a first time director, and she's going to think I'm typecasting her because she did Monsoon Wedding, in which she plays, house help, and she's
Yes.
going to.
Yes.
So I was quite nervous about pitching to her, but I think that Breeze's instinct, the producer's instinct on her was really right. So I was like, no, I really have to try. And luckily, she loved the script and she said she would do it. And she was really keen to do it, actually, and very supportive of the film, in terms of, said, whatever you tell me the dates, I'll make sure it works and stuff. So once I had her, that was really helpful. Um, Casting the guy was really tough,
Okay.
because finding the right person for that role. um, there's a lot of really good actors, but you have to find somebody who can balance the power of the guy, who can
Mm-hmm.
kind of exude this kind of power but still be gentle,
Oh
you
yes.
know
Oh yes.
not be acting it,
Mm.
because if you're trying too hard, then you would come across as aggressive, so it had to be very natural. He had to also be very comfortable speaking English and Hindi.
Mm.
There are those things, like, getting the exact tone of it right. So it was some of my options were restricted because of those things, because of language constraints, because a lot of amazing actors in Bombay are not that comfortable in English.
Mm.
They wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
convincing me to do it. So it was it was limited pool, and then I auditioned several people, and
Okay. For
Vivek was very
Vivek's.
prepared for the audition, and
Okay.
Tilottama,
For
for Vivek's
Vivek
role, yeah,
Gomber's. Okay.
yeah, to play Ashwin. And Tilottama was very gracious in that she agreed to audition with multiple actors,
Okay.
so that I could get a sense of how it works. And when I saw her and Vivek auditioning together, it became very clear, you know,
Yeah.
that okay, these two are, this can work, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
to try to
It-
to fitting the part, so
right.
to speak. But seeing them together in the audition, seeing the chemistry, it became clear. But in the beginning, it was hard.
Yeah. I mean, that I would have thought, wouldn't have been easy unless you just sort of had it in your mind. Yeah, these are
Yeah.
the people. Some people sometimes,
No,
perhaps some directors already
and I
have
don't know
it,
if you've
but
seen, have you seen Court?
I have not.
So Vivek is in Court. If you see Court,
Okay.
they're not all the same person that you see, who's Ashwin. So when someone recommended him, early on, I was like, yeah, but they're like, no, no, you should meet him because he's not at all how he seems in Court. So then I met him, and then it went, through various stages.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So
But
it's
they
it's very
had
difficult.
they had great, honestly, like great chemistry, but so subtle. You know, nothing. Best way I can put it across is like the silence spoke more than the words. I mean, the nuances were brought to the surface so beautifully and so subtly that it was never a loud movie ever. It
Yeah.
was just sort of the understanding between these two humans, the way you captured it was just so beautiful. And yeah, I think the chemistry between the two had to be there on the screen to
Yeah.
for the audience to feel it.
To feel it. Yeah. I think, when you worked a lot as a writer, it's very easy to fall into the trap of trying to be clever, trying to do something dramatic or something cool. And I did that, and then I would have to go back and take it out, you know,
Mm,
because I do a lot of rewriting and a lot of, like, it's not a first draft that you just keep
right.
going back and you're like, no, this is not authentic. This is rubbish. I'm trying to be clever. You take it
Yeah.
out, and but then what you have to put back in place of that is really precise details, so that you can show the growth of, like on the script, right? You can show the growth of a relationship through one glance, through one small gesture, putting the blanket, so you show, little things, to show something that you can't anyway speak about, because how will they talk about this,
True.
right? They can't talk, they can't flirt, they can't do anything, right? So it had to really be constantly be like stripping away of
Mm-hmm.
things,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that you have just enough and the smallest little detail that will tell you what they can't
Right,
say,
right, right. Yeah,
so
the subtle ways,
yeah,
yeah.
you have to work around it, and they have to work around it, the characters, because what will they don't know what to do with their emotions.
True.
They can't even admit to themselves what they're feeling, because it's so complicated in our society, right?
Yeah,
So there's
yeah,
which is great, right? Because it really gives an actor an obstacle which you know when you're acting. I know there are actors watching this, but they always need to know what they're up against, and
yeah.
they have the constant presence of, you know in their own hearts, what they're feeling and what they're allowed to feel are two such different things. So
Very
there's
true.
constant
Mhm.
conflict built into every scene for the actor.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they performed really well. I mean, that
Yeah.
sort of came
I,
forth in the
I was
movie.
really lucky with that as well, because you can it also has to work.
Yeah,
There are no
absolutely.
guarantees, and they
Yeah.
really, and there are things that did help us, like they know each other from before, they're friends. And because it was such a small budget film and we didn't have the opportunity, we were on the 22nd floor to shoot,
Hmm. Hmm.
and we couldn't take the time to send them down in the lift to go rest in the vanity vans or whatever. We couldn't even afford enough of the vanity vans, so we were like,
Right.
okay, one part of the apartment was their rest space, but there was
Yeah.
just one space for the two of them. So they had a lot of time to be together, to bond,
Yeah, yeah,
to talk through scenes, to do whatever they had, so that that their relationship also grew through the film,
yeah. So
as
the
friends.
comfort level
And I think that
established.
shows that they had that space, they had the time to
Yeah,
uh, talk to each other, confide in each other, get through things, and then
right,
come.
right, right. That's true. Um, so, what would you tell someone who wants to get into independent filmmaking? What would your advice be? Because you've just ventured on this journey not too long ago and you've had
Yeah.
something very successful.
It's difficult to know what to say to somebody, because um it's such a difficult profession, it's such a tough journey, but it can also be so rewarding, right? So I
Or maybe
wouldn't do
something that you would want them to avoid.
I think the thing to do is really to uh, I think to take your time. One has to, like, sometimes people are really in a hurry to just shoot, especially young people. They think they want to be filmmakers, so they just want to run off and shoot. And you can do that, with small budget, short films or whatever. But when you really want to make something, I think it's really important to take your time, understand what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Right.
Understand the lay of the land. Where are you
Mhm.
going? Why are you doing this? Uh, Answer the tough questions for yourself, and then once you have all your answers, because your actors will ask you that, everybody will ask you tough questions, you have to be able to face them. So once you have all your answers, then you can just do what you want.
Mm.
Then it's worth the risk, then you fight for what you believe in. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
but you have to take that initial time to do the work, to really be sure of yourself and where you're going, and work on your script hard enough. And then, then you can take on the battle, because it is quite a battle.
I'm sure. And it's an unknown territory for someone who's not, gone down that path, and so many new things one has to learn and overcome the challenges. So it makes sense.
It's such a joy, like I was saying, like if you find the right people to work with. Oh, and somebody said something to me that I think was really clever advice, so I'll pass that on. If you want to pass on advice, that when you make your first film, like your first feature film, not a student film or a short film, but when you make your first feature film, Ashutosh Gowarikar said this to me actually. He said, make sure that it's not that you don't you're the only person who's making a first film. Everybody else should have experience. And I think that was really good advice, because I was surrounded by some really real stalwarts. Dominique Collin, Jacques Cometz, the DOPD editor. My production designers also got a lot of experience. So she's younger, but she's not inexperienced.
Right.
I think it was just my producer and me who didn't have much experience, but our co-producer has like 100 years of experience. So we were able to balance it, But I think it's that, like you think, oh, I'll go out and I'll make it with my friends. You can do that. But if you get really experienced people, there's so much to learn, right?
Yes. Makes the journey that much more smoother.
And it's different kinds of learning. Working with your friends is also a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So
true. But that's a great advice, honestly, Rohena.
Yeah, I think it was really good advice, and I really took it very seriously.
Yeah.
And also, I was really lucky that I could get such experienced people to work on a first film. Just based on the script, Like Dominique Collin came in, and when he read the script, he said, "I'll do it." And I said, "Look, I met him in Paris in a cafe, and he had read the script." And I said, "Dominique, I can't even bring up the subject of money, because right now I have no money. Like right now, I don't even know how the film is going to get made, how many days we'll get to shoot it. Like it's really going to be small budget."
Yeah. And
he said, "I don't really care. Like, I like the film. I want to make this film, and the rest we'll see, So, and that was that. Yeah, that's, and that's just really, really lucky. But also it was based on the fact that he liked the film and he wanted to do it.
Right.
To find people who are genuine like that.
Yes,
find the right people
much.
To work with, who have experience, who he also does like huge budget French comedies. Huge budget films, and then he decides like, okay, yeah, why not, let's go do this little film in India. I like it. And I'm like, yes.
That's lovely.
I really think if you work genuinely, people do rally around you. People do come together if you put in the work.
Right. So do you feel, Rohena, now that the movie is so well received, sir? Jen, I think so. At least from people I've spoken to across the board. Do you think your next opening of this whichever your next project would be a little easier? Do you see that way, even in India? Do you find also the reaction of Bollywood towards you? I mean, I saw a tweet from Hrithik Roshan.
I was really shocked that it was really generous of him, actually, because that's really valuable for somebody to put out a tweet like that. I don't know him. I've never Okay. Nobody requested him for that, but it was really generous of him. I don't know. Honestly, I think it'll be a bit easier. Like I think it'll be, at least people will read my next script.
Yeah.
But
you've been interviewed by Rajiv Masand and the big wigs. I think that helps, and they have a huge audience in India and probably even abroad, the South Asian audience. So
I think they have, so in terms of the audience, I think that there's a visibility for the film, and quite a lot of visibility even for me and for Tilotama and Vivek. So that's been really great. In terms of funding, like making your next film, I think it really depends on the strength of the next script. It would be perhaps a little easier than the last time for somebody to at least read your film, read your script. Like they wouldn't be like, oh, what is this? They'll be like, oh, I want to see, because oh, this is the random little film that went to #1 on Netflix. I want to read the next script, of this director. So I have that little advantage. But it's as good as the next film. It's as good as the script.
That's true.
If people like your script, and I don't know. It also depends what the film is about.
In fact, my next question was to follow up. Do you want to share anything about your next project, if you feel like? Okay.
I can't. No, because like I told you, I'm currently banging my head against a wall, and I'm convinced I can't write at all. So
Oh, no one will believe that, Rohena. No, but I understand
I'm at that
your
point
anxiety.
where I'm like, I don't know if this is utter garbage, and I just need to put everything into the trash right away, and delete it or what. So I can't talk about it because it's really
Yeah.
It's part of the process now. Going through the very painful part of writing.
Yeah.
Alone.
Yeah, alone.
Without any collaborators.
But there is a light end of that tunnel soon. I'm sure it's going to be fruitified into a beautiful another movie for you.
I hope so. I mean, I like I said, one has to just put in the work.
Yeah.
I think you have to just keep working, and also just kind of remember why you do what you do,
right.
and not get distracted by anything. It's nice in that way to not. I'm not even in India. I'm in Paris. Like, I have a simple life here and do my thing, and I just have to find, stay focused on the work, which is all that matters really to me.
True. No, it sounds wonderful. Do you have any last words for our audience? Anything that you would like to share? Anything. It could be your experience, just about anything. Take it from here, whatever you want to say.
I don't. No, I mean, I really, really just want to say thank you, like, to people who've seen the film, to people like you who are spreading the word about the film, to every single person who's watched the film and recommended it to even one person, because that, it means so much. It means so much, and I've really understood the power that the audience has with this film. That you can really choose, and you can really decide. And I always believe that audiences, you can trust audiences and they'll choose what they like.
Mm-hmm.
And today I really feel that I'm just really grateful. So my message is just thank you, like, really thank you. And if you like it, if you watch the film and if you like it, then please tell a few people, because that really helps. Like, people watching your film, spreading the word, that's all you want as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Having especially this story, which is so personal and so important, to have it live, and to have those questions and those doubts linger in people's hearts,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe create the tiniest bit of change.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think your movie hit the nail. I honestly think, well, it really touched my heart, and for many other people. And I can't thank you enough, Rohena, for actually entertaining me for this interview. Thank you so much. It's just been such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much for the interview, for spreading the word, for everything. Like, it's like I said, I mean, this is all about the audience, and I hope it can, in a small way, just, create some questions that last.
Oh, I'm sure it has. Like, I find it very hard to even imagine that whoever's seen this film has not had, any thought provocation take place. I mean, I'm sure they have gone through it. It's sort of that's the whole idea of this movie. I feel, it kind of gets you to at least have a dialogue with yourself.
It'll be interesting to see how you react the next time you're in India. How you feel.
I have struggled whenever I go for holiday to India. Even now, I don't think I'm the same what I was 20 years ago.
Which part of India are you from? Where do you go back?
So I grew up in Bombay and Delhi. So when I go back to Bombay and Delhi, both, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So very much urban India, and
I grew up totally in urban India. Yeah. You know how it works there. But India, it doesn't matter. Even if I go to my grandparents' house who live in a small town, I still feel it's the same hierarchy which exists.
I think it's very strong. In fact, And
it's not just India, Rohena, because our audience, I just want to address our audience even from Pakistan and Bangladesh and Nepal and Sri Lanka and wherever. I think it cuts across the subcontinent. So anybody from Pakistan, Bangladesh, or whoever will be able to relate to this movie. So not just the Indians. Yes, it's based in India, it's based in Mumbai, but I'm pretty sure all the audience will be able to relate to it.
Audiences relate to it even in a place like France, because it's a different kind of thing. It's not domestic help, but classism is can be very, very deeply entrenched in societies. Superficially, you can pretend that you're equal, like. You may say hello to the bus driver, whereas in India, you would not even bother to say hello to the bus driver. But if your daughter decides to come home with the bus driver, it's going to be a problem. in a lot of cultures, you know.
Right. Right.
So I think it's pretty deeply entrenched. Of course, South Asians get it. In general, Asians get it much more. It's much more personal. It's much more real, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, classism
No,
is
you're
very
right. It exists in every society, I feel, across, well, almost across the world, in different forms and different layers.
Yeah.
But it does. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully, I mean, people watch it, whether they're South Asian origin or not, you know, whether they're part of the diaspora or they know somebody or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope so.
I'm sure they will. I mean, you've screened internationally, and it will be well received even henceforth.
Yeah.
So,
thank you so much.
Thank you, Rohena. It's great talking to you. Thank you for your time. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
ये शहर है, गांव नहीं है। यहाँ ना अपनी जिंदगी खुद बनाते हैं।
रचना,
जी सर।
खाना